Welcome everyone to Cultivate Prana's Masterclass, where we share methods, techniques, and wisdom from the path and practice of yoga so you can apply them to master your health, relationships, and business. I'm your host, Dimodar Narayan, and my guest speaker today is Dr. Jim Morningstar. Jim is the director of Transformations Incorporated in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and has held licensure as a clinical psychologist since 1973. He is a clinical supervisor, seminar leader, and has pioneered in the development of therapeutic breathwork. He founded the School of Integrative Psychology in 1980 and the Transformations Breathworker Training Program in 1990. He has authored 5 books in the field of integrative psychology. He is co-director of the Global Professional Breathwork Alliance, and he teaches internationally. Today, Jim is going to be talking about therapeutic breathwork, a doorway to self-realization. Welcome, Jim.
Oh, it is such a pleasure to be invited to speak with you, Devendra, because we have had a bit of contact already, and I immediately resonate with your spirit and how you come to the helping professions. Yoga, breathwork, whatever it is, I feel a kindred spirit with you in that. And so I'm delighted to present today what for me has been a doorway to self-realization, and that is breath work, and also to learn, because I believe that every time we collaborate in such an activity, even someone who's listening who may not have direct contact, our energies come together. We are one in the same fabric of life, and we are building and growing together. We are breathing together. That's the universal language.
Absolutely. Beautifully put together, Jim. So let me go ahead and ask my first question to you. So breath is as we all know, is the most important element for life to exist. It's available to us for free and in abundance, and is therefore often forgotten as a vehicle for creating transformation, creating healing, even creating self-realization. So my first question is, when did you first realize the therapeutic and healing power of breathwork?
Okay, that's beautiful, because let everyone know that I didn't know what you were going to ask. And it's a beautiful question because it helps me go back to my roots. And actually every day, each of us goes back to who am I and why am I here? That's part of living self-realization. So for me, I knew from the beginning in this incarnation that I was here to work with and help people, learn and grow together with people. I could do math, I could do engineering, and those are ways of working with people also, but I knew I wanted that direct contact. And so I chose the field of psychology because, psychology, the love of the psyche, that is a pathway to help people and also use a scientific approach in doing it. And I went through the full bore of training as a clinical psychology, undergraduate, graduate, internship. And the day after I received the degree, I had to admit to myself, something's missing. I've learned wonderful things. I had beautiful teachers, and I learned techniques that I believe were genuinely helpful to human beings in distress, or even to learn to grow. However, there was something about it that was missing to me. My wife and I got on a plane and went to Africa. We went back to roots. Of course, we knew someone there, and but it was kind of a pilgrimage. After all of that intellectual knowledge type of stuff, I had to set that aside. In fact, I even said to myself, I'm done. I'm done. I'm not going to spend my life sitting in a room, being a talking head, you're just relating to people through the mental. And sure enough, in the desert of Africa, the realization came, I need to get back to the earth. In shorthand, I need to get back in my own body. And so I came back and went on my inner journey. And that inner journey took me to, there were helping professions that paid attention to, in fact, got their signals and cues from the body. I took a yoga class. I took a bioenergetics class. And then I began to realize, okay, now this feels like the missing piece. This feels to me like I've got all of the pieces of the 1,000-piece puzzle on the board now, and now it's just putting them together. There weren't like missing pieces anymore. They were all there. And so I began my own journey of self-healing. And bioenergetics was one of the techniques that attracted me the most because it was a therapy, but it was a therapy that was based on studying and learning from the body. And Alexander Lowen, who was the founder of bioenergetics, his wife was a physical therapist. And so he introduced a lot of physical stretching and movement techniques into his therapy. That really attracted me. And I said, okay, now I'm willing to jump back in. This is, to me, something that not only works for me personally, but something that I would love to share with the world. So I began learning and learning. I took Tai Chi. The Tai Chi teacher that we brought in from New York, I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, happened to know Leonard Orr and become introduced to rebirthing. And that was even a more exclusive use of breath work than the bioenergetics was. I said, well, I've got to investigate this. And so we opened our home to be the first place that rebirthers came in the Midwest. And they came and wow, the breath, I didn't use these words at the time, Devendra, but the experience was, this is the rainbow bridge. This is the bridge that connects the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. Yes, there's the mechanics of breath, how to work the lungs so that the diaphragm is working, and then the costal muscles, and even the upper lobes. As I'd learned breathing in yoga to really take the full breath. Well, this orchestrated the breathing in a way that all of those elements were united in one. Well, the meaning of yoga, of union.
Yes.
I said, okay, this is the essence here. The breath is a key for me. And so I did all of the training that I could. And I was already leading a bioenergetics class. And after my second breathwork session, I went to the class, and a woman in the class laid down on the floor and started doing breath work. Well, it didn't look like that. It looked like she was hyperventilating or something. People, what's wrong? What's happening with her? And so I had the choice right at that moment to either tell her to stop that or to say, wait a minute, I've been guided through this. And so I became an instant breath worker. Well, of course, I had to then go and take more training and learn from people that had been doing this for some time, but it was relatively new. It was only a couple of years that people were into it. And at first they thought it was because it was hot water. They were doing it in hot tubs. And I thought, well, it's maybe the hot water that was causing these realizations to come for people. Literally, they called it rebirthing because people actually experienced their own birth. Not thought about it, not theorized, but they actually experienced that coming out of the uterine life in taking their first breath. And I've had many people do this throughout the years, but that is not the essence of breath work. That's a phenomenon that may happen. Just as in the journey of enlightenment, one of the distractions can be phenomenon. Oh, I'm a beautiful sunset. Oh, I'm the, and you can get stuck on that. So you have to continue on to what is the core. What is it that doesn't go away? Because phenomenon will come and go. On the enlightenment path, phenomenon, oh, I'm brilliant, I've got it, I know the answer. And then the next day is like, what was that again? It's like, oh, the washing machine broke. Oh, no. And so we have a million distractions. When I do get the experience of the truth, that doesn't go away. So that's why I loved when you asked me, what do you want to talk about today? What's the title? And I said, it just came to me. I said, well, self-realization, because to me, that's the purpose of life, is that we realize who we are and why we're here, not just as a textbook answer in a catechism, but as a daily experience. And people say, well, oh, that's something for philosophers, why you're here. It's like, I got to get to work. I don't have time for this. Well, why are you going to work? What are you doing there? Well, I was born into a family that had a trade as machinists, which I was, and we have a skill at that, and therefore we should broaden that skill, learn more about it, and help the world. Okay, that's a worthwhile answer. But I got laid off. Now, am I purposeless? Now, I'm not plying my trade anymore. It's like, well, life's over, which actually in the Western culture is true for many men who have defined themselves solely by their profession or the occupation. And with the carrot at the end, it's like, oh, you will enjoy yourself in retirement. Well, statistics show that many people, men in particular, who have no other purpose in life or no other interests, don't live very long once that is seemingly taken away from them. So my path then was to use breath and to use, well, Buddha's questions, who am I, to continue growing every day while also surviving. We have our day job. But if you ask most people, what's the purpose in life? They might say, well, to be happy. If we really look at happiness, well, first of all, there's the basic level of sensations. I really like grapes. Don't you like grapes, Devendra? Grapes are wonderful. Let's have some grapes. And so we eat more, and all of a sudden, I'm not so happy anymore. I ate too many grapes. So we learn that on the sensation level, the happiness is ephemeral. It comes and goes. What has more substance to it? Well, let's go back to being a machinist. That's a skill that I have, and I give to the world, and I'm rewarded for it. That's a higher level of happiness. I would say that has more fulfillment to it. But again, I could get laid off. I could, break my pinky finger. And it's like, wait a minute, does that mean I can no longer be happy because I'm not doing what I've been trained to do or what I get paid for? And this leads to a lot of depression in people who have defined themselves only according to their product. What use are you anyhow? Is the question. So there seems to be something more than that. Something, for want of a better word, I'd call purpose. And purpose is like the capstone on the pyramid. So part of my purpose is, yes, to apply my profession. Part of my purpose is also to feed my body. with things that are pleasurable. But sometimes life isn't just pleasurable on the sensation level. And sometimes I'm not giving that service. What then remains? What then gives substance to my life if it's not those things? So that realization, the self-realization of who I am and why I'm here, is not dependent on the goals that I have. It's not dependent on my to-do list. It's not dependent even on my relationships, whether people like me or don't like me. That is something that cannot be taken away. That is something, when you strip away all the externals, remains. And so a person may be living in a cave in the Himalayas, and someone would say, well, how are they useful to humanity? You know, we're out here marching in the streets for justice and for, and that person's just self-indulgent. They're just looking for some sort of nirvana or happiness, and they're not really connected to the world. Well, that's a short-sighted view, because as we truly know, we are all connected. Every one of us is part of the human body. Every one of us is serving a function in the health of that entire body. For one human being to breathe and sustain themselves on earth in a state of fulfillment and joy and connectedness with their breath to the rest of humanity is changing us more perhaps than someone who is fighting in the streets but has enmity and is creating separation. So everyone has to answer that question. And how far are you willing to take it? Who am I and why am I here? Most of the answers are based around survival. Well, no, I hate my job, but I got to put my kids through school. So surviving is the answer. For me, that, just making it X number of years doesn't truly answer my core, doesn't really speak to my depth. And so there are two tools for me that have worked most incisively in bringing me back to who I am and why I'm here. And one was Buddhist technique, which was translated into the Enlightenment Intensive. And I spent several years of my life doing Enlightenment Intensives. That is holding the question, who am I? And only communicating to a partner about that, nothing else. And what it does is it eventually breaks the mind, and because the mind gets boring after a while. You just can't keep saying, oh, I'm Jim Morningstar and I'm a psychologist. It's like, it's not fulfilling. And so finally the mind gives up and an experience of the truth comes. An experience of who I am. So it's not a word, it's not a phrase. It is an experience of the truth of who I am. So the Enlightenment Intensive and breath work, which I do every morning and every evening, before I get into bed, after I get out of bed, while I'm in bed, there are so many forms of breath work that serve us. And that's why I called what I do therapeutic breath work, because it is a therapy box. It's a therapy toolbox. It's not one kind of breathing. It's not one size fits all. Well, if you just breathe this way, you're in like Flynn, you're saved. No, we're here to pay attention. Life is always changing around us. But what is it that can help us adapt to that life and stay in our center? What is it that gives us that key to go through Maya, go through illusion, and come back to my center regardless of the craziness that my mind goes through.
Mhm.
If you don't mind, I would just like to share a brief little creation story.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. You see, the true yoga union is when we are all one. We are one with source. We are one with creator. And the image of that in the creation myth is the Garden of Eden. That's the place of innocence. That's the place of total joy and harmony. Now, as the story goes, creator decided to give part of his creation to human beings, and they are in essence given something that not the rest of creation is, and that's a free will. That's ability to choose. Now, to practice those choices, he set up the little test in the garden with two trees. One is the tree of life, and this is what truly you are to nurture yourself with. Nurture yourself with faith in the process of life itself. And now here's another beautiful tree. It's a wonderful and a useful tree. It's called the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So this tree makes distinctions: good, bad, right, wrong, and it's a useful thing. It's like a computer. It's a binary system. 1 0 1 0. And so now it's enjoy this. It's like, I'm giving you a computer here, use it, but don't think that that's who you are. The answers that come from that tree, because one day the tree will say, I'm good. And the next day it'll say, I'm bad, because it has all these criterions set up. It's not unconditionally loving. It's the tree of conditions, of knowledge, right, wrong. And yes, you can use them in life. It's important to have that, but don't eat of it, because you are what you eat, right? And so if you eat life, I'm life. If you eat knowledge of good and evil, oh, sometimes I'm good, sometimes I'm bad, sometimes, And so, of course, given free will, we got to try it out. It's like, what's the big deal? Well, as the story goes, the snake comes along and is the tempter, because the snake is like the animal that can't go backwards. Once you set off on a direction, it's got to go forward, which is representative of logic. Because once you get into syllogism, logical syllogism, then the conclusions will always come out the same. Once you buy the major premise, if your major premise in life is, I am one with God, all right, then everything that happens to you during the day will reflect a different way that you are divine. If you buy the major premise, and this is what the snake sold to Adam and Eve, he said, let's have some doubt here. Why is God saying don't eat of that tree? There's some secret there. There's something. So you think you got it good? Oh, it'll be even better once you eat that apple, once you buy that Sudsmobile, once you brush with Gleam, once advertising industry has got this down. It's not, you're not okay the way you are, but once you do this, you will have sex appeal. Now people will really love you. You're going to double your email list, Devendra, if you just buy this program, watch my video. You're not good enough the way you are. You can be better. Well, in one sense, we can grow and we can be better, but we don't need to let go of the part of it that's already perfect. Part of us. And so if we have both of them, life is a whole different ballgame. But when we kick ourselves out of the garden, when we eat that apple, and now I begin to think I'm not as good as, and I've got to earn my self-worth. You can never work hard enough and do enough to earn what you already have. And just by the fact that you keep trying, you keep saying to yourself, I'm not good enough. So if I'm doing yoga or if I'm doing breath work because I'm really not good enough, but maybe after this breathwork session, I will. Or maybe after I get a training degree in yoga, then I'll be good. No, it's great to do breath work and train in yoga, but it's not going to make you essentially any more valuable than you are right now in this moment. And that's not semantics. That is a genuine experience of doing life differently. And so we get kicked out of the garden, and the story goes that there is an angel with a flaming sword at the entrance to this garden. And so the only way back into the garden is telling the truth. The only way back into that state of bliss or that state of oneness is if we completely own and tell the truth. And as human beings, we have the right to tell the truth or not. You can't make me tell the truth. I won't do it. That's my right. No, absolutely. So I can stay in separation for as long as I want. That's called hell. It's like I choose to stay in separation because you offended me. You mispronounced my name. You did, it's like, so I have the right to stay out of union with you, stay fractionated, or stay out of union with humanity or God. I have the right to do that. And actually, by that, I'm exercising my right of choice, which is my divine right. Ironically, it's demonstrating that I am one with Source because I've been given that right. So we have the choice of if we want to live in that state of union. And I mean, come on, we've been around the block enough. We know that it's not just, boom, I make that choice and now everything is wonderful. No, I have to make that choice with every breath I take. I have to make that choice now and now and even now. And that's why the second technique that I said for me was the road to self-realization was breath work, because I come to train my breath or be trained by my breath is really what it is. It's I can't teach anyone breath work, but I can set it up for you to regain that connection with your own source. We can inspire one another. And you know what? We need one another here. That's the Mahayana. That's the greater vehicle. It's not like, oh, I'm going to go off in self-realization and the rest of you catch up with me later on. It doesn't work that way. We're doing this together. To the degree that I see others as unhealed or unwashed or unworthy, I'm saying that about myself. And so breath work gives me the physical experience of being fully alive. It gives me the emotional experience because in breath work, every feeling is accepted. Well, now what about anger? Anger is bad. The people that are angry are not self-realized. Of course, you know that. Well, no, I don't know that. Anger is a God-given reaction to life with the thought, something's wrong here. I'm not getting what I want. Now you say, well, that's not anger. That's just, well, what most people call anger is really not anger or the essence of what that is in my body for, to help me get a boost of energy to break through an illusion. It becomes hostility. It becomes a fixed vengeance. No, I agree. That's not useful at all. But just the experience of wanting to open the drawer, it doesn't open. I'm a little irritated. There, I open the drawer. It gives me a little extra boost of energy to come back to harmony. That's what it's for. Same thing with sadness. Sadness is not a bad thing. It's a river of life. If I breathe with sadness, I don't choke myself. I'm so sad. No, I can breathe with sadness and it'll take me back to what I feel I'm missing or was lost or taken away. Grandmother died. I don't have cookies and milk anymore. No, as I breathe with the sadness, that experience of grandmother's love comes back to me. If I just stay stuck and she's gone and I'm therefore never going to be happy again, well, yeah, then so that's what breath work does. It helps us breathe with our emotions. It helps us breathe with the anger until, now I see how I've been blocking myself from feeling connected with my father or my mother. I can see I've been holding on to an old attitude or some traumatic experience. And breathwork helps me breathe through that so that I do get what I really want, which is not get even in the sense of do unto others what was done unto you, but get even in the true sense of, we're bozos on the same bus. I don't have someone to blame anymore. We're all together in this.
So, Jim, you've tied up so beautifully. If I can reflect back, first of all, the path of self-realization. And in yoga, we talk about different modalities or different modes of yoga for self-realization. Bhakti or devotion could be one. And here you alluded to somebody sitting in a cave and what are you contributing to society? Well, if he's just meditating, he or she meditating on the divine, that's one way to self-realize. Another way is to act out. So you talked about a mechanic, and can you be self-realized being a mechanic? Well, as long as you don't get frustrated after you lose a job, or find another way of bringing that very hands-on experience to the world and meditate on it, be devoted to it. There are so many paths to self-realization, and breath being one of them, which is to, that's what I think is the easiest way to come back to the body, right?
Yes. In fact, without the breath, you don't come back to the body.
You don't come back. Absolutely right. Absolutely. We'd love to learn. I know you have an upcoming training. Please tell us more about the dates, what the setup is going to be, and any more information about it.
Yes. Well, I do my in-person trainings during the summer. And of course, we couldn't do that last summer. So we had to do everything virtually. So we discovered now how to do a training that's both in-person and virtual at the same time, which is going to be a knock the socks off experience, because we not only have the wonderful group of people August 16th through the 20th at a wonderful retreat center in the countryside of Wisconsin, but we are also going to have people virtually from around the country and even from around the world who will be with us at that time. And the energies of both of those together, it's like, yes, we've experimented with this. Actually, you did a little virtual training with us, Devendra, and we discovered we can have essential connection even through internet.
Yeah, I was going to say that, Jim, that was beautifully put together by you and your staff. And I can attest to it. Those 2 days were really transformative. And I attended that training virtually. Actually, we all did.
Yes.
Everybody was virtual at that point, and those 2 days were pretty transformative. So I can attest to the fact that it can be done. Ideally, you need to be there to experience, but we are all connected, right? So
Right.
Even if you cannot travel to Wisconsin, this is as good as being there.
Right. And so my website is transformationsusa.com. Transformationsusa.com. And on the homepage, there's a link there to go to information about the training, either virtual or in person. And then, of course, on the website, there's all sorts of classes that have been recorded. I've recorded 3 years worth of classes in the School of Integrative Psychology and various levels of breathwork training. Now, of course, you can't do training just through a video. We can do it virtually, but you can get a lot of information and inspiration through things that you're just watching on your own. And then go to a training, get a coach, jump in the water. Because literally we do breathwork in water. We do that too, which we'll be doing this summer.
Jim Morningstar, thank you for blessing us with your knowledge, your wisdom, your love. Much appreciated.
It was truly my honor. As I said, I resonate very much with where you're coming from as a teacher and as a person. Thank you, Devendra.
Thank you, Jim.